101. Is there any additions from staff?
There are no additions from administration, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any from the board? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, board member. All those in favor? James. Next up, minute approval. MPC June 17th. Has everyone had a chance to review it? Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of June 17.
All right. Seeing no questions, I'll call it. All those in favor? And carried. Next up, we have development permit 6.1. Craig, your take?
I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So this application is, we're probably going to jump around some of the drawings to identify some of the issues, is in the hamlet of Erskine, and you can see the property outlined in green. It's about an extension of the item that's listed existing garage on the drawing that's up in front of you. The white obstacle item that you see in that air photo is an RV trailer, so it's not a permanent dwelling. And the expansion is to the south of that brown roof, 11 feet into, so it would occupy 11 of the 18 feet gap between the existing garage and the house. The ancillary building, the garage itself, is a permitted use, so that actually is a bit of a correction on what's in the MPC material on the draft agreement. What doesn't meet the requirements, though, is a relaxation request to have the extension have zero property line on the east side. So there'll be the right-hand side on the drawing that's up on the screen. To the right-hand side is an undeveloped laneway, although we clearly can see vehicle tracks where people have been driving through it. But it's not built to a gravel base that the county routinely maintains and upgrades or maintains for snow removal purposes. The issue with the development permit, when you read through the RFD, was flagged by the fire department about access to the back of the house and kind of into the middle of that kind of courtyard area that Andrew's just highlighting now. If there was a fire response, it's the west side is already relatively constrained. The extension of the garage to the south to close that gap with the house would make it further constrained. The applicant has indicated that to address that issue of physical access, there's a fence that shows in one of the photos that is intended to be converted to a gate to allow ATV and other vehicle access or person access into that part of the house, which actually would facilitate fire response access if need be. Although I do have one or two, a bit of wording to suggest for the group to modify that conditions attached to the draft development permit. The eaves of the existing garage encroach onto our undeveloped lane, and in all likelihood, by about 0.4 and 0.37 meters. In all intent, if you're extending that roof line, you're probably going to extend the eaves, and you're going to have the same kind of encroachment. So I'm going to suggest, Mr. Chair, there be a modification to the draft development permit to add a condition requiring that they obtain a license of occupation from the county for that overhang. And that kind of agreement is one that our CAO is allowed to authorize. In terms of the variance to reduce it to a 3-foot side yard, the staff have done the analysis on that, and it's a two-part test. You can't unduly interfere with the character of the neighborhood, and you can't cause any hardship or impact on someone else's ability to use and enjoy their property. We think it passes on both accounts. We're not creating any shadow effects. There's no additional parking that comes from this. We don't have any record of complaints from the garage already being too close to the lane. It's an undeveloped lane, albeit. There's no loss of vegetation, so we don't see any challenges in meeting the two parts of that test. So with that, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is for approval subject to some conditions, and you'll find that in the draft development permit that's attached. Maybe we could just jump down to that, Andrew. And for the sake of clarity, some of the amendments I alluded to, sorry, can you scroll down to number 5, which is a gate at the tail end? So this is to ensure that this condition that the applicant follows up with what we discussed as a solution to the physical access to get into the back of the detached dwelling from the east side. What I think is missing in that condition as worded is that the gate cannot be locked. It also can't be blocked by structures or other materials. And the latch that it is to have, a manual latch, should be accessible from the east side. In other words, you can't just open it from the inside. You have to be able to open it from the outside of the fence. Otherwise, the department can't really get in unless they're breaking out the access, which they can do. It's just a little bit more traumatic for that. So that is a couple modifications I'm suggesting to condition number 5. The other one would be an addition to deal with the license of occupation to occupy item I mentioned. And that could word along the lines of a license to occupy agreement for the eaves overhanging the lane must be obtained from the county prior to construction of the addition. I could read that out again if I went too quick. So if there's an agreement to add that, that would be condition number 6, Mr. Chair. That's the end of the presentation.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question, and I think you've told me this before, but memory's not serving me. We don't have a percentage, like in the town of Stettler, they have a percentage of lot build on, and we don't have that in any of our hamlets yet, do we?
I
Should have been screened, and I'd have to go look that up myself. But usually in the staff report, if there is a missing, it's a parcel coverage is
Okay.
the term that you'd be looking for.
Yeah.
And usually it's also pretty generous, even though it looks like a lot. We would look at the entire parcel when you on the air photo, and coverage there is probably closing in on the 55%.
Yeah,
55%.
Okay.
But it is amazing without doing the exact calculations how quickly those side yards and yard areas add up.
I'll give you a motion to approve this with a extra
condition.
added. Yeah, 6.
Is there any other questions or?
Should
Go.
clarify, Mr. Does that also include the edits to condition number 5?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns from the board? All right, all those in favor? And carried. Next up, 7.1 subdivision. Craig, do you want to take us away again?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to jump to the sketch on 32, please, Andrew. So this application is, give it a try. So zoom out a little bit. Yeah, is a first parcel out of a quarter section that's located south of Big Valley, south of Highway 590. It is a relatively large parcel to account for the layout of the driveway and utilities that come up from, I think it's Township Road 35-0. And also encompass the open discharge area, which is you can see shown in the setback distance shown in the blue rings that's shown on the sketch. Beyond that, it's capturing all the features that the applicant wishes to have. So it is at 29 acres. The application doesn't have any issues in terms of our policy. We talk about preference, so we do allow larger parcels. As a first parcel out, we're not allowed to address the items like municipal reserve dedication. The access to the parcel is good in both cases. A little need for brushing at the existing access, which is not shown on the map. For the remainder, it'd be at the very northeast corner of the quarter section, and there needs a little bit of brushing to improve the sight lines. We do need road widening along the east boundary for our range road. The township road already has the additional widening that was taken some years ago. And in terms of the Rural Development Fund, the farmstead components max out the 10 acres that's allowed to be considered free of contribution. So that leaves 19 acres in the overall parcel that are subject to the $1,000 an acre contribution. With that, the recommendation is for approval and the conditions we can see outlined on page 27. Andrew, if you want to just jump there. And they are relatively common in terms of some brushing and the road acquisition agreement on the range road.
Go ahead.
Can you go back to the photo, please? Just farming that piece at the bottom. It's going to get farmed. Okay, that would be my only concern, I think, is that the equipment can get in and out of there and farmed effectively. What have we got?
It's 177 meters. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can turn that rig around, I think.
So,
Yep. Okay.
Mr. Chair, just when I've done, we've had that come up a couple times, in
Yep.
several months or maybe longer. I called our Brant, our local dealership, and asked them the biggest rig
Oh.
you've got. What kind of turning radius do you need to do a U-turn? So he told me on the biggest, the sprayer was the biggest attachment.
Sure.
Anywhere from 270 feet to 320 feet.
So you can get the biggest Brant sprayer and he can get turned around in there.
Yeah, and then you
Yep.
have to circle back for the other part because it's not a nice even amount.
Sure.
But
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That was my only
You can shut
inquiry.
off, nozzles.
Any other questions from the board? In my mind, this is one of those situations where the applicant had the option to go with a smaller subdivision. I get the discharge, but you could drop your north boundary down to, I assume they want to include those corrals to the northeast, but
They do.
there is still room. You could have cut some acreage off there as well as cheating the west boundary in as well. So I think that the applicant, the way we have this framed with our preference and our rural development fund, we encourage that it remain in drag use, but we give some freedom and latitude to the applicant if they are very set in their ways on what they want. So, any other questions? Can I get a mover then?
You couldn't go with some funny angles just for Larry's sake?
Oh, we probably could have if he was here, but he wasn't at this meeting. So
Well, then I'll move to accept with staff recommendation and the Rural Development Fund, the 19 acres.
So we have a motion to approve with staff recommendations. Any questions? I'll call it. All those in favor? And carried. Next up, we have the department report, 8.1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, we have a catch-up report first on the subdivision front. We realized we didn't bring the year-end one from 2025 in January of 2026. So that's why we're starting with last year's subdivision applications. And on the table, you can see we had 18 applications over the course of 2025. Generally speaking, most of those, when you look at the second column in from the right-hand side, the one that says status, you see endorsed or tentative approved. Wherever it says endorsed, that means we approved it. The applicant hired their surveyor and they finished the process with us to take it on to land titles. So 4 that you see that are tentatively approved, that means those applicants received their approval and they're still within their first year to get a surveyor, finalize the paperwork, bring it into us, and then off to go to land titles. After that, we don't track. The plan eventually shows up, or if they change their mind again, it doesn't show up. But once it's endorsed, we've done all of our part. The last column from the right, days to decide, just remember that the legislative benchmark is 60. So we're in good shape in those. When you see those 40s and 35s, even the 49 is a pretty respectable turnaround time for meeting our legislative requirement. We do pull these stats for ourselves, and then annually, that last column is one of the questions that we have to submit to Minister of Affairs as one of their basic information requests for us about planning operations. So that's it for 2025. In 2026, we're about halfway.
Hang on, I think we had a question about the 25 report.
Yeah, I noticed. Do we know? So Mrs. Smith comes in and it's a straightforward. There's really nothing that we have to do. It's she's got everything prepared and ready to roll. These are only ones that we have actually had in front of MPC, or
So all subdivision decisions come to MPC.
okay.
Your delegation, your subdivision authority bylaw is not to staff. It's to the committee only.
Okay, so there are none that you would have one day turnaround.
No, actually, we probably would never have 1 day turnaround.
And the reason I bring that up is the provincial government is really pushing quick turnaround stuff. So one of the things that, and I think what we should also be cognizant of, so if tomorrow Mrs. Smith comes in with an application, that's when let's say it's correct and everything's filled out and you do all the paperwork, that's the trigger date, right?
Yep.
So you are
complete.
30 days out before it'll see the MPC. So you have to recognize that depending on when they come in can also affect that date too, right? So that 35-day one at the very top could have literally been a turnaround of, we may not have seen it for 30 days, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to chip in a little bit on the theme I think you're building on. Some of our time is impacted by the scheduling of MPC. Some of it, though, is not. So, for instance, the minute we get an application, we still have to refer it out for 21 days to adjacent property owners and to other referral agencies. Even if staff was making the decision, that wouldn't go away. Then there's still lag time for you to read what you've got. And if you don't have to write a report to yourself, that does save a little bit of time. But you can't take that 35 days that you see on that first one and say that we'd be able to cut the time down 80%. So because there's some other legislative requirements, it still stretch that out to that 21 plus to easily to 27-day period.
Go ahead.
So internally, and I don't need more columns, do you keep track of some of those other items? How long it takes staff to turn on something, or how long before the next, maybe it's ready to go, but MPC is 2 weeks down. Do you do that or not?
So in terms of the staff level of time going into each application, no, we don't track to that level of detail. In terms of which ones kind of got caught up in the agenda
Dates. I was
scheduling,
more dates. Yeah.
Probably any of the ones that you see north of 40, those are the ones that are kind of getting caught in that schedule. So we have one that just came in last week that won't be able to make even the August MPC. Because first we have to screen it for completeness. We have to get the maps. We actually do the maps. They don't just give us ready to go maps from applicants. That's kind of a service we provide as the county. Then we have to circulate for that 21 days. We do have to budget some time to actually write the staff report. And then our agenda cutoff is typically Thursday, Friday prior to the Wednesday meeting. So sometimes that means we literally just miss it by a couple of days. In those kind of wherever we can, we do try to see if we can make the schedule work and compress it to make that cutoff. Sometimes we can't. So we do have one coming up that's probably going to be just under the 60 days, because when we map out the schedule, that is one of the first things we do. We're probably going to need 56 days to meet the MPC schedule. We're still within the legislative 60. There's nothing to be ashamed about that. That's good performance, quite honestly. And it does depend on what kind of decision-making council wants. So we have chosen in the subdivision authority bylaw to have a group review as opposed to devoting it to staff only. But that's a call for council to make on.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think the reason I'm kind of belittling this point or making a point of it is I've had conversations with our current municipal affairs minister and the former municipal affairs minister. In both cases, they're really pushing that, we need to get development moving. We need to automatic yes. They keep pushing that fact. It's important that, and I praise staff for doing this. They give us the information to be to defend what we're doing. We as the county of Stettler, I can say this is the reason we can't have an automatic turnaround on these things, because there are certain things that need to be. Turning it back to Mr. Williams is saying, we have 21 days that we have to wait to get the legislative approval in place. That's not us, that's you. So don't sit here and jump on your high horse and tell me that I'm the fault. We're doing our part on this. So, that old adage, when you're pointing a finger at somebody, you got four pointing back at you, right? So I may have pointed that out to him.
Well, I was just gonna say, my experience so far, considering where I live, you would probably have to go twice, in a sense, for approval, would you not? Because in my case, and just using more my location is, you first have to get the application passed by Alberta Transportation because I'm along the highway, which is a month and a half out alone. Then I'm able to do the request to the county. And then from there, it's however long for the other approvals and legislation to be completed.
There, we do have some options, not so much on the subdivision unless we make a drastic change and turn this over to staff. But on the development permit stage, we do have some options, and we've discussed this during our land use bylaw update. The one that we've dealt with for years at nauseum is the front yard variance for garages. And in my mind, this seems extremely simple. If there is no back alleys in the subdivision, then it should be an acceptable use. Staff can deal with it, and it should never come to us. If there's other issues with height or side yard setbacks or those sorts of things, fine. But that, in my mind, that's one that we can just hand back over to staff as an allowable use and let them process it. So we have some options to try and expedite this. The second is, I get that MPC is subject to some advertising rules, but if there was one of these that got caught in that limbo where we could add it at the end of a council meeting, an MPC, we would have to advertise it in advance, but we do 2 council meetings a month. So if it doesn't quite make that third Wednesday, we could do it
Yeah.
the following council meeting, and that's one way to, if we're caught in the crossfire, to make the 60 days.
Because we have sorry,
Go ahead.
we have a situation coming up in a month where ASB has been canceled.
Oh, in August.
Yes.
Yes.
And so you look at that and go, if we had a short agenda like we appear to today, we only had a few items, to add it to the end of a council meeting, to me, would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I guess it depends how much lead time we get on that. Like if we're working towards a set schedule and we've adjusted our priorities, then that could be a shift and someone else is probably going to get bumped. So it's not to say we can't do it. It's just, it's not, you need a lot of lead time to know that there's going to be that cancellation to be able to make that work. The other point I'll make is that when we talk to applicants and if we can't make a meeting, most of them, they tend to be pretty good about the timeline. There will be some people that are in a rush because they left things that are just too long. They need to finish a real estate transaction. So I can talk to the CEO and administrators and see if we can try that. But you are right. Formally, you can't make the decision as council. You have to reconvene as municipal planning commission,
Yes.
and then decide.
Advertise.
Yeah.
And regarding the subdivision bylaw, so do other municipalities allow administration to make more of those decisions?
You'll find it ranges all over. So I'll give you my experience with them. When I started working in the city of Grand Prairie as a staff, I was a subdivision authority. There was no council oversight or senior administration oversight. I did the decision. So it ranges from that to only council. Sitting as council can be your subdivision authority. So there's in between, there may be some categories that people say, this one has to go to the committee. There'll be others that may say, if it's really simple, we're comfortable with it. It's just a lot split in a hamlet, for example, going back to the way it was back in 1970s. Maybe that's something for staff to decide. What I've seen in those kind of systems, that if it's hard to define that line really firmly, black and white, and when the staff get uncomfortable, they'll just default to deferring it to the committee. So that may not achieve your objective if your objective was to see more going through without the committee. So it kind of depends on how do you determine this one's got enough hair on it that it should go to a committee for review, where this one is the straight bread and butter that staff should be with it.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to at some point, and there's no on the list of things to do. This may be low, but to explore giving administration a bit more influence on this, and if you do great work, and we're fortunate to have you and your team, and if we could not have a meeting as an example because of something that you can deal with, I'd like to look at that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next up, I have Board Member Nyberg.
So we have investigated it in the past, Mr. Gano, and I think one of the things that we have to be cognizant of, and just what Greg said, you could abdicate. There are councils that don't sit with any MPC. We are legislatively bound if we do have an MPC, because it can affect the ratepayers so much on decisions. We have to have it advertised so those decisions are. If I have a problem with Andrew putting in a slaughterhouse beside me, I have to have the opportunity to complain about it, right?
Yeah.
That being said, we are currently in a position where we have a phenomenal development department, and I don't say that lightly, and not because he's here. I would say it even when his back's turned. But I think that goes to our whole administration. I think we're very fortunate. We may not have always had that, and I was not necessarily always as keen to abdicate the throne in that sense, right? So you have to be careful. You never know what happens with certain individuals if they decide to win the lottery, move to the south of France, and we lose them. That could be detrimental to have someone new come in with a ultimate power. So.
It's fine. Craig's committed to the next 30 years here, so we have nothing to worry about.
That lottery sounded pretty good. It's
All right. I think we were done.
2025.
25. You want to take over?
2026, I'll try to pick up the pace here. We're about literally halfway.
It wasn't you slowing it
in
down.
terms of the track. So report for half of the year, and it's almost heading on track for the same number of 18 applications by the time we finish the calendar year. There's not a lot of shocking trends. Probably our timelines are still comparable. The average size of parcel for some of our first parcel outs around farmsteads are probably creeping up a little bit. That's always going to be influenced by the setback distance for open discharge systems and how the original setter, whoever settled the quarter section, laid out the farm buildings and the various facilities. So moving on to that one, Mr. Chair, it's 2 quarterly reports for the development permits.
Just one note that you cannot say that we favor any county staff, considering that the one is the longest number on there. Just saying, there was no special consideration given at all. In fact, I think it was worse.
Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, going back to the earlier question about things that get caught up, the Christmas timeframe sometimes is a challenge for us, and that's what you're seeing in that first lead-in peer application for 2026.
That first one may be an example of an inexperienced applicant that just doesn't understand the process.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Sorry, actually, my mistake. The Christmas ones will be at the tail end, so those are the ones that sometimes get caught. That was submitted after the New Year's.
Do you track everyone that comes in? and where I'm going with this is the rules that we have in place now discouraging development? Is there anything that we should be doing? We talked a bit about timeline, and it sounds like we're doing great.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like the timeline.
Probably still the same. Well, actually, for some people, the minute we charge a fee is discouraging development, and our fees are for subdivision are very modest and low in comparison to others.
Okay.
Probably the biggest challenge is still everyone when it comes to subdivision and first parcel outs, and especially second parcel outs. They think that we operate just like Lacombe County and Red Deer County, which are more restrictive jurisdictions, and we don't. So they kind of just do their own research, look it up, don't necessarily check our stuff, it seems, and assume that the answer is no. And then they're surprised when they come out that yes, that's an application we would consider. If they compared us to Camrose County, we're probably less likely to have that scenario. But a lot of them, if they do a comparison with anyone to the west of us, they may think that the rules are tighter here than they actually are. So sometimes I think that is, but those are the people that aren't even calling.
Yeah, so is there an opportunity for us to, I'll call advertise, that
Yeah.
we're open for business and that we are different and
Probably
from
one of
Millet
the
Homes in Red Deer?
easiest is, it's on our website, but our county magazine does go out on a quarterly basis, and I'm occasionally asked to provide some contributions. So I haven't given some thought to the contribution for the next quarter, but that's a possibility.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Gano, again, to that end, it's an interesting one because I'll tell you what, if you have your application approved and everything goes well, we're open for business. And if it is closed, because you didn't fill out the proper paperwork or you aren't willing to meet one of the conditions, we're not open to development. So,
Well, where I was going more so, and Craig mentioned it, is there might be folks out there that have an old understanding around how many out of a quarter, for example, and if maybe they thought, well, I never thought of that. We can add a fourth parcel here, and that's where I was going with that.
no, and I absolutely, but I think you will see if you were talking to the general public, if you find somebody that is down on our development, it's usually 9 times out of 10, I will say that it's somebody that's had a bad experience that has also had a situation where they may be the problem. The old adage, it's not me, it's you.
I have heard the Rural Development Fund. I've heard that. They don't quite understand that, but
Yeah, no,
that's okay.
absolutely. In fact, we've had people say that we're too open because we put, industrial spots where somebody's made an application and fits all the rules. Nothing we can do about it. Good policy makes good government.
Go ahead, Craig.
Thanks. So the 2 department reports are for Q1 and for Q2. So they're kind of independent. They don't stack or build up cumulative. So you do have to read on that. We're going to work on bringing a cumulative one for the 3rd quarter of this year. So we'll see both what happens in the 3rd quarter and the cumulative year-to-date information. So roughly speaking, this was to the end of June, so it's a little bit lower than our current file. By that time, we'd open around 41 applications. That's now up to 48. The trends are continuing to be largely residential, with ancillary buildings being a large number of those development permits. And I think that pretty much sums it up, other than the exact numbers for each category, Mr. Chair. So if there's any questions around that, I'd be happy to try and field them.
I'd move acceptance of the report.
All right. Any questions? All those in favor? And carried. Next up, we have the department report.
I think we just ran through that same one.
Nope. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's quarter 1 and quarter 2.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So my understanding was the previous motion was accepting the subdivision report. Was
I could, would you prefer that I remotion that?
well, if
Or I'll make another motion that we accept, it's probably best.
the
The 2 department motion-
reports.
Yes.
Perfect.
Make a motion that we accept the 2 department reports for information.
So all 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, they not all part of 8.1?
So
What's that?
I will
Sorry,
repeat
yeah.
what I said. As the chair, I understood the previous motion was to accept the subdivision report.
Okay. What did you have written down?
I had the subdivision report written down.
I got
Okay.
ahead of
Then
myself.
I'll
there.
give you a motion
He-
to department.
Board Member Gano's already
Okay.
made that. Any other questions? All those in favor? And carried. All right. Perhaps I added confusion, but that was far more difficult than it needed to be.
More than us?
You still have
We-
one more to do then.
We have a small in-camera set.
No, you still have development report quarter 26 now.
Good news.
So the last motion that was made was to move both department reports. Is that
You
all?
said you were taking them individually.
I did not
No,
say that.
no, you started.
Okay.
We have it covered? Do we have it covered?
Andrew,
Okay, I'm going to recap how
That's
this went.
how it was written.
I am going to recap how this went. And if anyone disagrees, they should speak up.
Okay, I'm
There wa-
speaking up.
If they have something useful to say, they can speak up.
Okay, Wade,
There was a
don't say
motion
anything.
to approve the subdivision report. It passed. Then Board Member Gano moved both department reports and it passed.
Is that what you
That-
have written?
That is what I have written.
If I would have known that, I probably wouldn't have voted for it.
Mr. Chairman, can I just take this as an educational opportunity? This is the kind of situation where if one person misunderstands what the resolution is, especially with something more substantive, this is not a great example. That's where the motion to reconsider is different than a motion to rescind. It's okay, let's back up and redo the vote on the first one. I just figure since we went over the procedural bylaw in Calso recently, I would use the rare example of when a motion to reconsider is
So
sometimes useful.
I could make a motion to reconsider, right?
You could,
But I'm not going.
and I am going to strongly encourage the rest of the board to vote against that.
so you didn't miss anything.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll take you
So-
into camera.
Everyone's clear on department reports. I now have a motion to move into camera. All those in favor? And carried. Carried.
All right, are we,
Go ahead.
okay. I'd like to make a motion that for administration to bring back a conservation easement policy and a template letter.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carried. Well, next MPC meeting is scheduled for August 19th at 1 PM. No changes there. I need a motion for adjournment. And Mr. Hunter would gladly do that.
I will,
Well, you want to stay here?
I'll make
All
a
right.
motion to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor?